My name is David Chess. I'm a physician, longtime resident of Stratford, and a community activist. I have the pleasure today to introduce Tony Afriyie, who is running for state senator for the 21st District. Tony currently represents our 5th District on our town council here in Stratford and is a staffer for Rosa DeLaura. Although only 26 years old, Tony has a bachelor's degree in political science, has served in AmeriCorps, and has earned a master's degree in public administration, specializing in development and sustainability. Tony is amongst the brightest, most innovative people I know, and I'm happy to have him here with me today. Hello, Tony.
Dave, thank you for having me here with you.
Well, I hope together we can learn more about Tony and how he's going to make Stratford even better. So, Tony, tell us about yourself and where we're going.
Yeah, so born and raised in the Bronx, New York. I was born in 1997. My mother and father came from Ghana, West Africa in 1994, and we lived in New York up until 2006, and where my mother and father brought me to Stratford, Connecticut. And we've been here ever since. I ended up going to Nichols Elementary School, Worcester Middle School, Stratford High, strong class of 2015. And then I ended up going to Western Connecticut State University, a public university here in Connecticut up in Danbury. And I graduated during the pandemic. And as you noted in that beautiful introduction, I recently just finished up my master's at CUNY Baruch in Manhattan.
That's great. That's a lot of being local, and that's a lot of knowing our town. So everything is about the engine that we have inside of us that moves us forward, that gives us passion and drive. And to do what you're doing at 26 takes a lot of passion, takes a lot of drive. Tell us what's that fire inside and how to get there, and you know what pushes you to this craziness.
Yeah, so Dave, thanks for that question. I honestly get it from my father, and my father has a real love for church, and I've seen that passion. And he would get up 3 times a week and he would go to church and just volunteer his time. Whether he was tired, whether he was sick, he would take that upon himself. So I saw that type of work ethic. I saw that type of passion for something that really matters to you. And for me, that translated to public service. When I graduated from WestCon, I was looking for employment, but we're in the middle of a pandemic, so it's kind of hard to get a job. So I decided to enlist in AmeriCorps, NCCC, which is basically national service throughout the United States, and now specifically based in the Southwest region. So I did a lot of conservation work, a lot of humanitarian work, a lot of disaster relief, and I even helped with the distribution of COVID vaccine. And I was in New Orleans, I was in Colorado, I was in New Mexico, I was in Kansas, Missouri, and it just showed me what America was. And being introduced to all these different people, understanding their living situations and why the communities that they live in, it showed me that we're really just a big melting pot of people.
Right.
And it's such a beautiful mosaic of what America is and what it can be. And when I came back to Stratford, I realized that I wanted to continue in this act of public service, and I decided to run for town council, another voluntary position here in the town. And that, ever since I've won, it's been such a worthwhile endeavor. So public service is something that I really do value, and I think it's part of our civic culture to really try to cultivate.
Well, we really enjoy your voice on our town council. You bring a lot of clarity and again, a lot of passion. So running for state senator, what do you want to do? Let's say you're there. How do you see kind of playing out your mission within that role?
Yeah, so it's going to be very community oriented. Because I've lived in Stratford, because I'm from this area, because I went to school in Danbury, Connecticut is in me. And I think that because I'm so used to it, I've been so close to it. I only graduated high school 10 years ago. I only graduated college 5 years ago. So a lot of the issues that are affecting my generation, I really have my hand on the actual nose. I know what the dial is looking like. I know where the temperature is.
Right.
And I think if I can bring that perspective, that fresh perspective, if I can bring that voice, that new innovative ideas to the table, it really enriches the dialogue so that we can enter a new conversation of What do younger generations really need out of Connecticut to service us, to keep us here, to make sure that we don't leave, to make sure that we become successful entrepreneurs that start businesses not just in Connecticut, but nationwide. So when I get to the Senate, you're going to see a whole different generation ready to pick up the baton and get ready to really uplift a lot of people that just feel like they haven't been seen, people that they haven't been heard. I'll give you a great example. In my congressional offices, sometimes I pick up the phone and I help with IRS or SBA cases or VA cases, and the personal touch of talking to someone on the line in their time of need and trying to connect them to the resources, that's something that I really do have a passion for. And as a state senator, my constituent service team is going to be on point, that when you want to reach out to someone to figure out and get connected to your resources, my team will be there and we'll get back to you very quick.
That's terrific. That's really important. So looking at the younger generation, and again, being of the older generation, and having 5 kids of my own, some in your age group, your thoughts in terms of how we can do a better job, how we can build community in a time where we're very fragmented. People are connected to their phones and their computers, and how do you see, what are some of your strategies for kind of getting us there and building community?
Yeah, that's a great question. For me, foremost, is workforce development. I want to see pipelines from our high schools to our apprenticeship programs into specific sectors of our economy, whether that's teachers, whether that is public safety like nurses, firefighter, police officers. I want people to be able to cultivate the skills at a very early age. Again, we want to identify high school so that they have the skills and the techniques to be able to become specialists before they enter the workforce. And before we know it, we're going to be replacing the people that are aging out with better qualified labor in the near future. That's one of the things that I'm really focusing on. Another thing is, I think that if we're able to touch children at a very young age and give them the resources they need to succeed, like Head Start, like universal pre-K, that changes a child's trajectory, because now they're connected to reading and math. Now they're connected to environments that are challenging them and stimulating them. So for me, it's about providing our children and our kids, our high school kids, the resources they need to succeed.
Right. And how do you see the trades in this?
Oh, great partners in this. I think that they have a lot of specialties that not many people can do. And again, college isn't for everybody. But there's those kids in those high schools that if you tell them that there's a pathway to become a plumber, an electrician, or to become a crane operator, and you show them that if I do step A and step 2, by the time I get to step 3, I'm making a livable wage, I'm able to buy a home, I'm able to invest, I'm able to start a family. People are going to want to buy into that type of culture.
Well, I think some of our leaders have built computers without going to college. So
Exactly.
There's a lot you can do without going to college, and it depends what's inside you and how you learn. What do you see on the town council as some of your major achievements here in Stratford? Where do you think you've had an impact?
Dave, I'll tell you, my tenure on the town council has been marked by bipartisanship. That's something that I'm really proud on, and I tell people all the time that I'm not left or right. It's about efficiency, and it's about actually being effective. So the first thing that I'm going to really champion is that in 2013, the town of Stratford developed a coastal resiliency plan, and they identified specific recommendations that the town could make. We sat idle on those recommendations, and we're in 2025. And it wasn't until this past December 2024 that we actually passed one of those recommendations by making a $16.7 million investment to build a flood wall to protect our water treatment center. So that was something that I really took a lot of pride in, because there was a lot of inaction from town councils years before me. But as soon as I get there, I'm able to work across the aisle with my fellow town councilors, and we prioritize this because, as we're seeing, climate change is having ramifications all across Connecticut, whether it's drought or whether it's flooding. It's here, it's affecting us, and we're a coastal town. So we need to be prepared for the future, and making that investment while I was on the town council as one of my first big infrastructure projects. I think in time, Stratford will remember that. Another one is this past budget cycle. we advocated for $500,000 extra to be afforded to the Board of Education. And it wasn't an easy conversation with my colleagues. And again, that vote actually wasn't bipartisan. But that $500,000 that we fought for got included into the final budget. So being able to stand your ground and really voice out for the need of our students and our faculty of what they need on that budget was something that I can take pride on. Another one is we've seen a lot of street takeovers throughout Connecticut, and it's a pandemic now, causing a lot of havoc, and we've lost a couple lives in Connecticut from this specific behavior. In Stratford, we're taking initiative, and we've passed an ordinance that we want to actually mitigate that type of behavior here in town. So I do take initiative, and I take pride that we're being proactive. We see an issue, and we're trying to address it. And then lastly, public safety has been something that my specific constituents have constantly reached out about. And I can be proud that the red light cameras that are being implemented are about to be implemented, that Stratford, again, was proactive in trying to be one of the first municipalities to do it right. And we're going to see the byproducts of that very soon.
Well, that's actually pretty impressive. With that study in 2016 about our resiliency, why do you think it's taken us 8-9 years to begin to address this? And how do you see, because we're having to bond a lot of the dollars to pay for that.
Right.
What do you see as the impact on our taxes here in town?
So I think it was just a lack of courage. There's a lot of hard things that happen in government, and people decide that I want to kick this football down the line because it's going to affect me whether I get elected or not. And for me personally, that's not why I'm doing this. I'm doing this to leave a lasting impact on my community so that I'm leaving a better generation for the people that come behind me, because this is not mine. People elected me here, and that is a blessing, and I never take that for granted. So if I have to make a hard decision that's going to be beneficial to everyone in the long term, I can stand my ground and make that decision. And in regards to the bonding, I think Stratford really does have to really come to terms about how are we going to try to raise revenue on our operating side so that we can create an environment where we're not leveraging a lot of our tax base on our homeowners. So what that looks like as your state senator, I'm going to make sure that I'm trying to get as much federal resources to make sure that our main streets are hubs for innovation and for businesses, and that entrepreneurs can look at Stratford and say that I can start my business here.
That's great. So it takes courage, right?
Courage.
Yeah, it definitely takes courage for sure. The currently about 9% of what we pay in taxes goes to debt, and we recently passed $28 million of bonding. Was there discussion about how we are going to pay for that? Again, I know this is a pointy question. It's not easy, but this is a conversation, and the problem is that, again, everything falls on homeowners in our town. We have a very, very shallow stream of other incomes, and so is there, on the town council level, was there any talk about how do we approach this?
Yeah, if you go back to those videos, I specifically brought up debt. And I think we all understand that the last few years in Stratford, we've seen a lot of stress, whether it comes from our homeowners, whether it comes from the businesses already here. We don't feel comfortable. We don't feel like we're secure enough that we can make that expenditure that we want to, or we want to buy that thing that we've been coveting, whether it's an appliance, whether it's another car, or whether it's an appliance for a business owner. We don't feel comfortable in this section right now. I think that going forward, Stratford really does need to have an honest conversation about how are we going to pay off our debt at a sustainable level while also making the investments to bring in this capital, this revenue, that we can balance this out. And those conversations on the town council are ongoing, but we were honest about the debt.
Right. Well, again, I'm excited to have you at this as a state senator, representing us there as well as here in Stratford, and it's gonna take, I believe, that balanced approach, that thoughtfulness to get this done. I know that housing has been very big in your mind and is a real interest. Tell us what you think about how we create more affordable housing. And there's always that tension about not in my backyard type thing. Yeah. And so how do we mitigate that so that we have a stock of homes or houses or apartments that people can afford, right, and at the same time not take our historic district and make it look like it's a factory?
Yeah, and specifically for the Senate district, I want to say that assessing the whole situation, whether you're a homeowner or you're a renter, the pressures externally from the market is tough. When you want to buy a home now in either one of these 4 districts, you're in a competitive market with people that are not from Connecticut, from outside, that are leveraging high dollars that you might not be able to compete with, and you're from that community, so it is kind of a deterrent. When we talk about the renters, rent is skyrocketing. I think a lot of landlords right now, they do see that they can make a little bit more off the back of their renters, so we need to talk about mechanisms to protect that specific constituency. I think that it's time to reimagine what housing stock looks like. I think that when we look at old dilapidated buildings around town, we need to re-envision how they can serve our tax roll. Whether we convert them into units that are affordable, whether we reimagine how they're mixed use with storefronts at the bottom and then livable units at the top. I think that those conversations need to be had more, specifically here in Stratford, where we have 3 properties on Barnum that I think anyone that's been here for longer than 10 years can already identify. And when we convert those units, how do we ensure that that affordability is relative to Stratford residents? Another thing that I think that throughout the whole district that we can talk about a little bit more is community land trust. I think that if we want to really make sure that people can stay in the place that they grew up and that they can grow their own children, their own families, that is a program that we need to start talking about a little bit more.
Right. How would a community land trust work?
Yeah, so let's say if I lived in Stratford and I've had my home for 3 generations, and I know that the community or the neighborhood I live in, the price is past $1 million, but I want to make sure that my kids have the opportunity to have the same access to this neighborhood, this lifestyle that I had, then I would put this property on a community land trust and it would stay in my family. This price would never go up and it would never be competitive. It would stay off of the market and we can charge affordable housing for that specific property.
Very cool.
Yeah.
Well, thank you very much for being with us. Do you have any questions for me?
No, Dave, just want to say I really do appreciate you having me here, and my generation is ready to pick up the baton. There's a lot of misinformation. There's a lot of not trust or confidence in the institutions that we have. And I think that my generation, it is time to step up, stand tall, and speak out. And that's what my candidacy really does offer, is for the Gen Z to say, we're ready. We can take on these big burdens. And we have broad shoulders, so we can carry a mantle.
Yeah, so I don't know about Gen Z, but I do know about Tony, and I trust that you are ready and that you will really help us develop in a really positive way and help us make a better Stratford. So thank you for being here.
Dave, thank you for having me.
And thank you to all our viewers. Over and out.